So let's jump right in with how to determine who your target audience is. Now, this is an essential step in developing an effective marketing strategy because you need to know who you're talking to. So the first step in determining a target audience is to analyze the product or service being offered. Consider the features, benefits, and unique selling proposition, or USP, of the product or service. Determine what problem it solves or what need it fulfills. So what does your service or product do? What problem does it solve for your target audience? Now, this could be a very broad statement, but you really want to understand what value you're providing. Conducting market research, we're actually going to talk about this in week 1, but very briefly, conducting market research, it helps you learn more about the potential customer who would benefit from the product or service. This can be done through surveys, focus groups, or online research. You're going to identify demographics, characteristics such as age, gender, income, education, and location. I expand on this during market research because we're not just going to be looking at your market, we're going to be looking at your competitors as well. We're going to be looking at the entire industry. Next, you're going to analyze the competition, which is also part of the market research. So you're going to see who they are, who they're targeting, and how they are positioning their product or service. We're going to determine what makes the business different from its competitors. This is what I refer to as your point of differentiation, and who would be most likely to choose their product or service over others. So you're really going to try to understand why certain people are going to your competitors, or, why is someone buying from Nike rather than Under Armour, or why is someone buying from Under Armour rather than Nike. Next, you're going to develop your buyer personas. A buyer persona, which is a fictional representation of the ideal customer. I refer to this as your avatar. This includes information as their age, gender, income, interest, and values. These personas can help the business understand what motivates and behaviors of their target audience. Now, I refer to my avatar as Paul, and I will kind of give you an example of who he is. He is a fictional character. I made him up, but he represents my ideal customer for an apparel company. Then you're going to test and refine. Test marketing messages and tactics with different segments of the target audience to determine what resonates best. Now, I do teach a marketing 101, and this is kind of what this test and refine section is. We're going to teach you how to develop marketing strategies and then how to actually test them, split test them to determine, how to get the best, viewing from your target audience. So you should consider this when you are marketing, and I'll just briefly say this because there is a marketing section later on, but when you're marketing, you want to put your company in front of the customer. You don't want the customer to be in front of the company. Meaning, if I go to Google and I'm looking for apparel, I want my company to be put in front of that customer or potential customer who is looking for exactly what I have. And I want to do that in a way that tells them, I provide so much value to you that it is definitely going to solve your problem by purchasing my product. And basically, you want to be advertising in a way that makes that apparent. Your advertisements should show all of the value that you will provide to them, but without them having to go digging looking for you. So we'll talk about that a little bit more in the marketing section. But overall, to develop your target audience, I really recommend that after you conduct your market research and analysis in week 1, that you start to develop your avatar. And I talk more about this in week 1, but start to think about it now and get a general idea of your business concept and who exactly you are trying to sell your products and services to. Next, let's discuss brand boards. Now, a brand board, also known as a brand style guide, is a document that outlines the visual and stylistic elements that make up a brand's identity. It's a reference tool that helps ensure consistency in the use of a brand's design elements across all channels, from marketing materials to social media posts to product packaging. Typically, a brand board will include the brand's logo, typography, color palette, imagery style, and any other design elements that are unique to the brand. It may also include guidelines for the tone and the voice of the product's message, as well as examples of how these elements should be applied in different contexts. A brand board is an important tool for maintaining a consistent brand image and building recognition and trust with consumers. It can be used by anyone who works with the brand, from designers and marketers to social media managers and content creators, to ensure that all communications reflect the brand's visual and stylistic identity. basically, a brand board is not a very complex document if you don't make it complex. Essentially, what you want to do is you want to list all of the colors, the style, is it a minimalist style? Is it, loud, bright colors? So you want to put examples of how you want your brand to be marketed and how you want it to look. And not just how it looks on the website, but how it looks on the social media and how it looks on your advertisements. So for me, for example, when I have my brand board, I put the hex number, so that's 6-digit code for each color. So I'll put the hex number or the hex code for each color so I know exactly which color I'm using. And even if I'm using a different program that might not have the color I want as a default, I can type in that 6-digit number and I'll get my exact, color. So I'll put all of the colors, my main color, my accent colors, optional colors. I'll put the types of fonts and the sizes. So, is it like, for example, this is all going to be Open Sans, the titles are going to be Open Sans bold, the texts are all going to be Open Sans between 12 and 18 font. So these are the sorts of things that you want to start to think about when you're developing a brand, because you want to be consistent. Nothing shows like amateur or not a very serious company when someone's scrolling through your website and there's different fonts and there's a whole bunch of colors, and they get to your social media and then it's completely different. So you want someone to be able to recognize your brand no matter what platform they're on, which is why a brand board is so important. And as you grow, you might want to put things, put other things like, we want these sorts of ads to be serious in this sort of tone. We want these ads to be, fast-paced, impactful, this sort of tone, these sorts of speeches. We want to use these kinds of words. Bigger businesses have entire groups of people and work centers dedicated to developing their brand and maintaining the brand, being consistent across all platforms. And that's all a brand board is. So starting off, I would think about, your logo, the colors that you're using, and the fonts that you're using. And all you have to do is just write those things down. And when you write those things down, you want to make sure that you're referring back to that whenever you're creating a new post, whenever you're adding anything to your website, or whenever you're going to pay for an ad or do any sort of marketing. And in the next slide, I'll give you an example of a very basic brand board that I created about 10 years ago when I started my first business, but I still use this brand board to this day. Now, this is one of 15 pages of this brand board because as my companies have grown, I've had to add more to the brand concept.